before they went into war, they will cut their skin. They would put a ruby inside, under their skin, and because of that, they will feel invincible and win the battle.
If it can make you win war, then why not?
It's a myth, yes it is, but it shows the symbolism and it shows how when people believe in something, it gives them that power.
Belief, symbolism, and if it worked for you in that particular situation or time, you stick to it forever.
Gemology is a lot more than science alone. We talk about history, we talk about psychology, about consumer behavior, about emotions, about symbolism. Would you believe that in the 18th century, people would get rid of their wives by using a color change sapphire?
Welcome to another episode of the Jewellery Pod. I'm your host Krishna. Today we'll be unlayering the color stones. Let's join our hands to welcome Juliana Landmann from Gübelin, a legendary laboratory from Switzerland that is not only 100-year-old but holds a history beyond that. Let's hear from her how mythical and scientific the world of color stones is. Welcome Juliana. Welcome on the Jewellery Pod. How are you doing today?
I am great. Thank you so much for having me here, Krishna.
This is such an honor for me because as for all the episodes that we have released so far, 50 plus of them, I haven't covered color stones in detail. And I really could not think of any better person to do this. So please do the magic. Surprise me.
Oh, wow. Okay. I shall try my best.
Before we go to Gübelin and its iconic history, I would love to know how you landed up in the world of gemstones.
I think the world of colored gemstones unites everyone who have one thing in common, the passion. And I always make a joke, people come from everywhere and from nowhere at the same time. And I think we need to remind ourselves the reason why we come to this industry, right? I actually started with my own jewelry business in Brazil, where I'm originally from, many years ago. And I loved it. I used to design, I used to create pieces and buy the gemstones. And I moved to London to do a specialization in gemstones. And I never went back, actually.
That's so cool.
Coincidentally, I found my way there and I decided to stay. And then, of course, if you're not in the country where your brand is, it's very difficult to continue. Mm-hmm. So I closed down my brand and I worked for nearly a decade for De Beers Jewelers. So really with the focus in diamonds. And that was in London, and I really loved it. I learned so much about diamonds and color diamonds. And at some stage, I felt I missed the people element. Not sales per se, but really getting to know people and spreading the passion. So I moved actually to Belgium and I started my own company with the focus on coaching and training and especially public speaking. And there I loved it because I met people from all over the world. But guess what? After a while, I missed the gemstones. And you can't, because when you are in this industry, you just want to be close to the gemstones. So I moved to Switzerland. And in Switzerland, of course, home of the House of Gübelin, I found a job that I think really, for me, joins both my passions, people and color gemstones. So in the Gübelin Academy, I have the people that come to learn about the color gemstones, and I get to be with the color gemstones,
Isn't
uniting everything. Yeah, it's...
So you're motivated to do your job every day?
Honestly, of course, every job is a job. If it wouldn't be a job, it wouldn't be called a job, right? But it's every day is different. Every day I get to see a different gemstone. I get to meet someone else and I get to inspire people about this industry. And that really gives me energy.
Isn't that lovely? And very fulfilling at the same time.
It is. It really is.
But don't you think what you just spoke right before about passion, that's something nobody tells you to do this, right? I don't think so. That narrative is still common in our societies that to go into this business unless you are from the family or you inherit it. It's very unlikely for people from different walks of lives to come and join this business at the same time excel. So I really feel that it's very underrated trait when people say that I'm a gemologist. I'm coming from a place where mining used to happen. I'm coming because I have joined this industry because my uncle used to do a business. Nobody ever admitted that I am very passionate about, but whoever did it, is either on this platform or about to come on the Jewellery Pod.
Yes, I mean, that's absolutely true. I don't think unless you are in a family-owned business and you inherited this from someone, no one will tell you go into this business because this is quite a complex business with so many facets to it. But when you are stung by the insect of gemstones, you cannot help but go into this. And it's really something that you cannot explain why you're attracted. We can't. And I think it's not just from now. I think humans have been attracted for gemstones for millennia. If you are passionate about it, even if you try to keep yourself out of this industry, you come back to it.
And talking about what made you continue, and somehow you reached to your happy place, and you are very motivated to do it. Gübelin, legendary place, family owned, more than 100 years. Tell me more about Gübelin. What made Gübelin Gübelin?
Yeah, so 170 years actually we celebrated last year of the House of Gübelin, and Swiss family owned, now in the 6th generation. Not a lot of people know about it, but once you understand, you see exactly what I mentioned in terms of color gemstones. There's so many facets to it. So we started out as watchmakers in Lucerne in Switzerland. And over time, we're talking here about the 1850s. And a few decades later, we had a few clients that wanted to do some bespoke jewelry pieces. So why not, right? So they started making some jewelry. And at that time, now we're talking about 1920s, there were already quite a lot of synthetic colored gemstones in the market. 100 years ago, it's not new synthetics, right? Yeah. So to be able to sell the best stones to our clients, we decided to start a small lab to test these stones. And that's how the Gübelin Gem Lab actually was founded. And the service that we were doing in-house was so good and important that other jewelry houses heard about it and wanted to have this certification as well. So that's when the Gübelin Gem Lab kind of set itself apart from the jewelry and the watches to issue this certificate for other houses as a third-party opinion. And now we're talking about more than 100 years ago. Over time, with the expertise and a few generations, we have developed this small lab into one of the most important colored stones gem lab in the world. And Dr. Edward Joseph Gübelin, who was the generation responsible for really going further with the lab, he was one of the most important gemmologists in the world. He was the first one to see the relationship between the inclusions, so what we see inside the gemstones, and the country where he was finding the samples and bringing back to Switzerland. And this relationship that he saw actually started off with the whole country of origin it's the biggest question that the labs are facing nowadays. So it started with Gübelin, and he's still known today as the father of modern gemmology, or even the father of origin determination. And now we have the lab, and we also have the academy. And the academy was founded in honor of Dr. Edward Joseph Gübelin to spread the knowledge and the expertise that we have over 100 years from the lab and the passion with students from all over the world. And the house now, with 170 years, we really feel proud of understanding this industry and being able to spread this passion even more and to give our students the confidence they need, right, to feel good in this industry, or to join the industry, or to really be successful in here.
What a legacy, what an impressive legacy. And it's actually giving me goosebumps. And not that you have just shared about how it all started. It has ignited my curiosity more and more. I'm really intrigued to know what kind of technologies existed those days to check the stones. And were the synthetics were really so good that you have to see them under the microscope? Because my superficial knowledge allows me to talk about very basic oil treatment, probably lab-grown color stones and more. I know it's nothing for you, but I want an expert opinion on this.
As I mentioned, synthetics are not new, right? I mean, now we hear a lot about synthetic diamonds and synthetic color gemstones, but synthetic color gemstones were already since 1900s. And when they came to the market, of course, they developed over time. There are various different methods that can create synthetics, but they do have inclusions. Some of them can be free, completely clean of inclusions, but most of them have certain inclusions. So one would think if there are inclusions, then it's natural. And that's when it comes the work of the microscopy and other technologies, because we need to be able to differentiate these inclusions to understand what is natural, what is synthetic. Back in the day when the small lab was created, we were talking mainly about basic gemmological instruments like your refractometer, your polariscope. And funny enough, Dr. Gübelin, when he wanted to know something that he didn't have an instrument that would give him the answer, why not? He would invent it. So we're really talking about a scientist, a poet, a mineralogist, a gemologist in one person that was crazy about gemstones. Today is a very different scenario. So today we learn how to look at synthetics under the microscope, but from a lab perspective, you still need other machines. Always 2 gemmologists, or at least, so 4-eye principle at least, but also an analytical analysis made by machines to see really chemical composition, spectra, all the important elements that we need to say, yes, for sure, this is natural, this is synthetic.
Again, a very childish question, but how different it is from 4Cs? What standards we follow when we see color stones?
Good question. And there's no childish question, by the way. So when it comes to the world of diamonds, and the diamond world and the colored gems world are very, very different. So in the diamonds, you have a really strict scala for the 4Cs. Everything is easy, understandable, unless we talk about colored diamonds. That's another topic. For colored gems, we also have the 4Cs, but color is a lot more complex because color is subjective, right? So when we say red, what are we talking about? So we need to think in terms of the hue, so really the color. We need to think in terms of the tone. Is it light? Is it dark? We need to think in terms of saturation. How much red is in there? Is it red? Is it more towards the pink, right? So color is one topic. When it comes to clarity, we don't have a very, very slightly or slightly included. We have transparent, translucent, or opaque, but we have a million, if not more, options of inclusions. What kind of inclusions they are, where are they positioned, how big they are, how dark they are. So this is a lot more complex. Then in terms of carat, we have the carat weight, but different gemstones have different densities. So 1 carat ruby is going to look much smaller than a 1 carat emerald. That plays a role as well. The cut is the cut. Okay, it's kind of similar. And then on top of the 4Cs, we have treatment. And there are many options depending on which gemstone we're talking about. And very importantly, origin. That plays a big role when it comes to valuing gemstones. So 4Cs plus origin plus treatment, and keep in mind all of these are specifically for all different species, and also much more varieties and complex within each criteria.
That's a very easy answer to most complex world of color stones, and that's why you're expert. Also, if I may know, what makes big three big three? I'm talking about ruby, emerald, sapphire. Why we call them big three?
It's a very good question, actually. So rubies, emeralds, and sapphires, I get a lot that question, like why do we study mainly these stones? Why do people sell mainly these stones? And they are beautiful. There's no discussion there. But the key thing is they have been loved for many, many decades, centuries, thousands of years. They have been adored by different civilizations. They have been associated with powerful and very strong emotions and doings. They have been worn by very important royalty and society and noble people. And all of this brought to us still today this prestige that these are the best. And as humans, we cannot help but look at the past and see what was the best and still feel that way today. So although they are very rare in high quality, you have other gemstones that are very rare in high quality. But the key thing here is really history, associations, and symbolism that still play a role today for us.
And for my further understanding, we also get to hear on day-to-day terms how Colombian emeralds are different from Zambian emeralds. Are these two main origins, or there's a more science and origin story about it?
Emerald in general, we have different deposits of emeralds around the world. Colombia is by far the most important historical, not in the sense of oldest deposit, but in the sense of how people perceive it as the best, right? So when it comes to Colombia, still today, when you go to auction houses and you look at the world record prices, is Colombia, Colombia, Colombia. I think I can remember one ring, which was a 10-carat emerald, that got a world record prize, and it was from Afghanistan. But besides that one, it has always been Colombia. So Colombian emeralds are known to be highly transparent and a good intensity of green. So we need to think that when Colombia was discovered, so we're talking here now the 16th century, when the Spanish discovered Colombia, they were used to emeralds that were coming from countries like Pakistan, from Austria, that were heavily included at that time, not that transparent. So when they found these deposits of super clear, beautiful, intense green, they went crazy. And they brought this material back to Europe. And once it was in Europe, it was started to be exchanged with diamonds from the Golconda mines, through the Silk Route, with many other materials. And this spread through many civilizations. So people since that time thought, okay, Colombia is the best. Now, of course, not every emerald that's coming from Colombia is the best quality. Every mine has fluctuations of volume, of quality, of everything. Zambian emeralds are beautiful. Brazilian emeralds are beautiful. But they were discovered and they were commercialized much later.
Okay.
So it's still new kind of for us. So when someone tells me, oh, I have a specific budget and I want to get an emerald, then you don't need to think about the origin. You need to fall in love with that stone, no matter from where it is. But if someone comes and said, I want really an investment or something that will really can go to auction houses, then you have to stick with the origin that is mostly perceived as valuable. But in terms of quality, you have top qualities from all, not only Brazil, Zambia, and Colombia, but other deposits as well.
Talking about color, Juliana, a few color stones have been assigned with very strong graphical words. Once I was sitting with my client and I gave him an option of pigeon blood ruby. He got traumatized. He was like, why would you use such strong words? Have you ever seen pigeon blood? I was like, it's not that I've made it now. It's there in the books, it's there in the literature, and it's a trade term. He got shocked, trust me. Would you like to uncover more about pigeon blood ruby?
Yeah, so I mean, it's always hilarious in class when I say pigeon blood, and some people even say pigeon's blood, and then I always ask, have you ever seen the blood of a pigeon? And you know, so the exact origin of the term, no one really knows. We don't know if it's coming from the blood of the pigeon or the very red eye that some pigeons have in the East. We don't know, but pigeon blood became a stamp, right, a label for high quality. Different labs can have different opinion of what pigeon blood is. For Gübelin is not just a color. Pigeon blood for us is a trade color term that we give for really the highest quality of rubies. So when we say highest qualities, it needs to be the perfect red. So intense enough, a medium tone, straight red with possibly a tiny bit of purple. It cannot have any eye visible inclusions. It cannot have any windowing or extinction. It has to have a strong fluorescence. It cannot be treated. So they exclude all of the heat treatments that we have, right? So it's really only like the 1% of the rubies that we receive that can qualify for that term. So that term really became a label, a stamp of quality.
How you felt when you heard it first time?
I thought people were joking with me, to be really honest. I was like, what are you talking about? Why would it be the pigeon blood, right? But once you start like that, but when you start hearing the word if you imagine what what pigeon blood really is, you understand the rarity of it. For me now, the poor pigeon, when I see it, I don't even see the bird anymore. I think, top quality.
A lot graphic, right?
Exactly. And now we have crimson red. So crimson red is another trade color term that has the same quality criteria as the pigeon blood, but without the fluorescence.
Juliana, taking back to your classroom experience, you have interacted with hundreds of students so far, and all of your knowledge is very science and fact-based. But would you agree that there are some myths that exist in gemology that you can't help sharing in your classroom?
I think we are very much science-based, but I do think that gemology is a lot more than science alone. Mm-hmm. So when we are in the classroom, we talk about history, we talk about psychology, about consumer behavior, about emotions, about symbolism. There's so much in this world of gemology, right? There are many, many myths out there. And although I don't know if they're true or not, I tend to think that symbolism plays a huge role when it comes to the world of color gemstones. So one of the stories, for example, that gets everyone like, really, is, and again, this is actually that we reread in literature. So someone is telling that story, right? So we're talking about now about 600 AD, and we see people in Burma, romantically known as Land of Rubies. And it is said that before they went into war, they will cut their skin. They would put a ruby inside, under their skin, and because of that, they will feel invincible and win the battle.
No way.
Yeah, really. And we can read that in the literature. So this tells us how powerful rubies were already perceived back then. Can you imagine like cutting your skin and I have a ruby inside of me, therefore, yes, I can do it? I mean, it's crazy, right? So it's a myth, yes, it is, but it shows the symbolism and it shows how when people believe in something, it gives them that power.
It's more than anything, it's always belief backed by a symbolism. I have a real story where a homeopath doctor literally gave sugar balls to a patient who just wanted to have medicines. And he was perfectly fine. And he just told them that have these pills and you'll be fine. And literally it was nothing but some salt, basic salt. And he felt good. More than those days, I think we need those rubies under our skin now.
Right? It is. You cannot explain. But if you put your mind to something, and if you truly believe, it works.
This is Converse going spooky. And talking about spooky, I'm not sure if you're aware, but Indians are really scared of buying blue sapphire as gemstone, just general. They won't just walk in a store and pick, Diana wore it all, or that's engagement ring, or that's a stone famous because of Diana's engagement ring, let's buy a jewelry out of it. They consult astrologists, gemologists, whoever they can. They test it if it's suiting them or not. They tie it, they put it under a cloth and they tie it on their hand and sleep. If they get bad dreams, that means stone is working for them. And if it gives them good dreams or at least good night's sleep, it's good to go ahead with. Have you heard something like that before?
Not about the dreams, but I did have a few students who came to me, and at the end of the program, they offered a book personalized for me that would tell me which stone I should wear, on which finger, on different metal, and in which day of the week.
Tell me they were not from India.
Of course. I found that fascinating. I ate those pages. And I mean, as a marketing perspective, that's brilliant, because I pretty much discovered that I needed to have all of these stones in all the different metals to be able to cover all the areas that I wanted to improve in my life. So great.
And trust me, this has changed lives of many, many jewelers across generations. Those who were nothing like probably 20 years back, but they started selling color stone, and they have mansions in their respective cities. And
I mean, again, it's not scientifically based, right? But I do think that belief is so strong here.
if it can make you win war, then
Why not?
why not?
We see, for example, there is a Indian talisman that is called a Navaratna.
Yeah.
And you know it. So
Yes.
there you have around it all the different colored gemstones
Yes,
representing
in a
a
specific
planet
sequence.
in a specific sequence. And of course, you have the ruby representing the sun right in the center, right? So I think all of this is very helpful for us because it puts us closer to the world of gemstone, that not just from the scientific perspective, but also from really this belief in symbolism perspective. If you think about gemstones are the only assets, let's say high assets that we wear close to our body. You have cars, you have paintings, you name it, but gemstones, we really have it close to us.
Yeah.
So we want to have close to us something that makes us feel good. And although I believe no one will tell me, or people will tell me where, let's say, an emerald for you to win an argument, which is another myth, by the way, I just feel attracted to certain colored gemstones for I don't know what reason, and that stone makes me feel good. It makes me feel powerful when I wear it, and I completely change my behavior when I wear it. So whatever works for you, go for it. That's what I personally believe in.
That works all the time. Belief, symbolism, and if it worked for you in that particular situation or time, you stick to it forever. Do you have any more such stories to share? I'm getting goosebumps.
Oh, yeah. You have to come to our courses. I share so many stories. Would you believe that in the 18th century, people would get rid of their wives by using a color change sapphire?
No way.
But we're talking now about 18th century Europe. And there was a sapphire called the Les Saphirs Merveilleux, which stands for the marvelous sapphire in French. And this sapphire at the time, no one really knew much about color change sapphires or color change gemstones, okay? But this was a color change sapphire. What happens to color change sapphires is they change color depending on the light that is on the stone. So someone very smart, and I'm sorry, but it had to be a man, thought, why not we do a virtue test with this stone? So when a man wants to, say, prove that his wife was unfaithful, they would give the stone for the wife to wear. The test will start in the day and finish at night. If the sapphire remained the same color day and night, she was faithful. Mm-hmm. Should, God forbid, that sapphire change color overnight, she was unfaithful. Back then, what happened? Daylight, it has a cooler light to it. The sapphire was blue. Mm-hmm. When night came, we used to have only candlelight. Candlelight is incandescent, so you have a warmer energy there. And color change sapphires change from cool to warm. So it goes from blue to purple. So these poor women had no choice because eventually, when they were close to the candlelight, the stone changed to purple. Unfaithful.
That's unfortunate.
That's unfortunate, but it's hilarious because this is simply a color change sapphire. So they're using science. It's a myth,
yeah.
But exactly. So I find the story hilarious, and of course, it always shocks people, including
It is
me.
shocking. And we, as people from East with lots of history and mythology and religion, we always give example of West people in West that they don't wear any color stones and they're still very successful. They don't wear any kind of color stone on a specific day and they are landing on the moon. So
I mean, we do wear a lot of colored stones, but
You
not
do,
a
yeah.
specific day.
Right.
Or, but
not with
yes.
that mindset. Though I'm not a seasoned gemologist like you, but I've read and heard a lot about El Dorado. What's the mystery about El Dorado?
El Dorado. So, I mean, there have been many movies made of this story, right? There are a few different stories that are told out there. The one that I know, it was a native chief, and to join his tribe as a chief, he needed to go through a special ritual to get him there. And the ritual was he needed to dress full with gold and gemstones, especially emeralds. And he would need to take a small boat to the center of a lake. And once he got to the center, he needed to jump out of the boat, submerge, and all of these gemstones and the gold would come out of his body and will be offered to their gods. And of course, the European heard that myth and they really wanted to know which lake that was because they could take all of these gemstones, right? Yeah. And there are so many stories of where to find these lakes. So it's a myth. But people literally went there and explored as many lakes as they could to try to find these gemstones. So El Dorado became kind of like the way in which Europeans went to Colombia, as the country, to find these hidden treasures on the bottom of a magical lake.
But they ever found something?
Some people say yes, some people say no, some people say they destroyed some lakes, some people say they never showed up. So I hope they never did. And it's now still there sitting, waiting for someone to come.
I think let's come back to 2026. It actually took us to back then. And what is modern approach towards color stones? Where I'm talking about when it comes to investment value of the stone, or I've had some experience with commercial range of this big three. But what makes a color stone special when it gets a title of investment value or museum grade stone?
Investment is, of course, a very difficult word, right? Because I think when people think about investment, they are thinking about it like stock, that you immediately get something out of it. In the world of colored gemstones, that is slightly different. You have to keep it for longer. You might be lucky depending on what other mines are discovered or not. So a lot of things play a role. When it comes to, let's call it then investment, we are talking about really high quality. The big three are, of course, ideal because they also have the historical and associations. But when we're talking about, for example, ruby, a ruby in high quality, color, clarity, especially large sizes, is a myth nearly. They are extremely rare. And rarity here plays the biggest role when it comes to investment. That's why people ask, but diamonds are more valuable than colored stones.
I think that's just a narrative.
I mean, you can find plenty of DIF 20 karat plus diamonds out there. I really can't even think of a perfect color, perfect clarity, 20 karat plus ruby. Not even one. It's extremely rare. So when we want to talk about investment, then we need to be picking ruby, emerald, sapphire. I would add Paraíba, tourmaline to that list, and of the highest quality possible. Then we can really talk about increment potential investment.
Also, what's the science behind oil treatment? Does it enhance it? Is it necessary? Or it's a trade practice? What's the real reason of oil treatment?
Sure. So clarity enhancement, which is how we call these emeralds, emeralds by nature, they grow in extreme geological conditions, which cause them to have a lot of fissures, right? When these fissures are reaching the surface, it is prone to these fillers. Oil or a polymer or a resin, when they go into your gemstone, into your emerald in this case, they are going to hide these fissures and it's going to improve the clarity completely. So clarity enhancement is completely accepted, and if it wouldn't be for that, we wouldn't have all these emeralds in the market, because they are. The inner world of emeralds can be beautiful. Dr. Gübelin coined the term jardin, which means gardens in French. So the emerald inner world is called a jardin, because we don't have only fissures, but we also have these beautiful inclusions that remind us of gardens. Minor oil means the emerald after the treatment has improved in a minor way. So the treatment will have an effect on the value of the stone. because the more fissures you have reaching the surface, the more you can improve the look of it, the appearance of it. As long as you have a minor clarity enhancement, this is widely accepted. Important is disclosure. So the final consumer needs to understand that what they're buying has a clarity enhancement, what level of improvement it is, if it's none, if it's minor, moderate, significant, to be able to know the value of that gemstone.
And that treatment stays in the stone, or?
Oil, there are many different types of fillers. So oil is volatile. So over time, it will leave the stone. And you can treat it as many times as you want. So a report is really just a snapshot in time at that moment, right? Whereas polymers, they tend to stick in the stone for longer. That is why in the trade people prefer the traditional filler, which will be the oil, rather than the modern filler, which will be the resin. But even in the report, sometimes it is not stated which filler it is. It would just say the level of improvement. Yeah, so you can request to have the type of filler as well, which now is becoming very important as well in the trade.
And Juliana, what you have to say about heating? What is heat treatment? Why it is given to the stones?
Heat treatment, again, I love it because it's very democratic, right? If it wouldn't be for heat treatment, we couldn't have all of these beautiful rubies and sapphires. So when we talk about heat treatment in the big three, it's mainly rubies and sapphires. We cannot heat emeralds, right? So heat treatment can be more really artisanal, so really with a blowpipe, very traditional way, just putting the stones under fire. And we see this since the 13th century. It's not new. And nowadays we have more modern heat treatments that we can control the temperature, we can control the environment, meaning there is oxygen inside or not, and we can control the time. And although treatment is not a science, so you don't know exactly what you're going to get, it improves the color. And it can also improve the clarity of your stone by dissolving some of your inclusions. So the treatment is great because you will have a stone that perhaps wasn't loved before because of this color or the clarity, and you can make it look a really nice stone. But on the other hand, of course, it will decrease the rarity of that stone, because all stones, nearly all, can be heat treated when it comes to corundum, to rubies and sapphires. When it's natural and has that color, that's where the rarity lies. So
and it's commercially accepted.
It's commercially widely accepted if disclosed. Disclosure is everything. It's everything. The problem we have, why people are not confident about buying colored gemstones, is because they don't know enough and they feel that they could be cheated. So the more us in this industry disclose, educate our consumer, the more comfortable they will feel, the more trust they will feel, the more they're going to buy. So it's our job to really give full disclosure of treatments.
And that really brings me to the question, or the reason why I wanted to do this podcast so bad, that you have done a historic work which would be there in the books, in the certificate, and with people as a classroom experience, but it's very limited to people who know. And as an education expert, what do you think could be done to bring it out to more and more people? Not as a Gübelin, but you, someone as a flag bearer of education of color stones. What are your takes on this?
I think the job you're doing with this podcast is a great start, to be honest. I think nowadays people want the deepest education in the shortest amount of time. Time is of essence. That's why we offer our courses in short, fast-track modules to allow for people to really have a bit of time to come and deeper their knowledge. I think there are a lot of very good podcasts out there. There is very, very good magazines, like, for example, In Color, Gems and Gemology, that you can read, that can keep you up to date. But above all, I think go to fairs. Ask as many questions as you have. I always make a joke, pretend you're a client and really ask as if you were going to buy, because this is how we learn. right? Fairs is the best place. Go to Bangkok, go to Jaipur, not to buy, but just to look at things, to ask questions. This is the best way. If you can follow a course, that's and as many courses as possible, right? That's the best. But podcast, fairs, magazines of gemology, there are plenty of books. There's so much out there that we can easily grasp. But above all, I think, Krishna, is keep that passion alive and the curiosity. Because even when you have all the certificates from all the schools, all the academies, there will be a lot of things that you realize we don't know. Life learning is really the answer and what makes us really, I think, enjoy even more this industry.
This is something I'm taking with me forever, Juliana, and I love this conversation a lot. And coming so far, I'm very sure you had your own set of beliefs that you stood by. And what kept you going? That would be my concluding question for this podcast. What kept you going above all? You are handling a very specific niche. Jewelry itself is handful. Then within jewelry, there's a topic called gemology, which is, I really don't know how to measure that.
Firstly, the people.
Yeah.
I think the people in our industry, no matter if you are a cutter, a designer, an auctioneer, a gemologist, a collector, or simply you love gemstones, everyone shares this passion. And no matter who you are, where you come from, once this passion is there, you immediately connect. And I think that's what really keeps me going. Gemstones for me is something that I feel so much attracted, and I cannot explain why. But I do think that especially the color stones, they talk to us. They kind of tell us, hey, I want to be with you. I want to be on your neck, on your finger. And they speak to me. So I get a lot of pleasure, a lot of energy of coming from in this industry.
I do hope you continue to do what you love, and thanks again for sharing your passion with us in this space. Loved every minute spending with you over here.
Thank you so much for having me, and I'm sure there will be many more questions to come, so
I hope we do cover them soon.
Thank you so much, Krishna.
I do hope you love this podcast. It was very, very intriguing for me. I'm concluding this podcast with so many unanswered questions that I do hope I'll take them in next session someday again with Juliana. But you have all the freedom to write below in the comments. Share your feedback, what you loved, what you didn't. Maybe something that you were expecting from us to cover in this podcast. Leave in the comments. Let us know. Write to us. This podcast would be shared across 7 different platforms. Follow us everywhere, and don't forget to share your feedback, and do follow the Jewellery Pod. Till we meet again, thank you.